Look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping, still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know why nobody told you how to unfold your love. I don't know how someone controlled you. They bought and sold you. Look at the world and I notice it's turning while my guitar gently weeps. Every mistake we must surely be learning, still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know how you were diverted, you were perverted too. I don't know how you were inverted, no one alerted you. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. I look at you all, look at you all, still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know how you were diverted, you were perverted too. I don't know how you were inverted, no one alerted you. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. As I'm sitting here, doing nothing but aging, and still my guitar gently weeps. While my guitar gently weeps. Shit, I don't think I sang that too well now. I think I had the sort of tempo wrong in it, you know, and my guitar went out of tune mid song. How you doing? Greetings. How you doing? Yeah, you can see the name flat Earth guitars gently weeping, and there's plenty of things for guitars to be weeping about these days, isn't there, on flat Earth? So I just better check that everything came through okay, because there's been problems with the sort of synchronization with the voice and everything came through okay, because yeah, that looks okay. I turned down the sort of the resolution in the camera, so yeah, maybe that won't take up as much bandwidth, and hence, sorry, I suppose the quality of the image will suffer, but that will be no loss to anybody. But it will come through in sort of a more coherent whole. I just wanted to put the word out. I was looking for knob cheese. I'm looking for knob cheese everywhere. So just anyone who might bump into knob cheese, Antonio knob cheese, Super Rats, just let him know I'm looking for him, and just tell him from me that he stinks. So that's pretty much the reason I came on. So on that note, I'm going to say good night, and yeah, all the best. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I couldn't leave so quickly. I know there's lots of stuff on as well tonight. Yeah, let me go back to the main screen. Glowbusters, usual Sunday night setup, and fair play. I mean, there's a big audience, big live audience, and obviously more watch than afterwards. But great information always brought up, and many different areas of flat Earth research looked into. And I suppose it's not for everyone at this stage, in the sense that myself, I've been listening to it from the start, obviously. So I guess it's like anything else. You move on. So anyone who's coming into flat Earth, and of course people are coming in all the time, it's a great resource, and a great outside of anything else, outside of all of the suspicions, you know what I mean? And the suspicions are abound these days, really, on everybody, you know, and maybe necessarily so. I mean, if you're about truth, and if truth is protected, then you're going to have to expect hurdles, boundaries, blocks, diversions, perversions, inversions along the way, you know. And we know the flat Earth is only the biggest conspiracy ever, you know. It's just about us, our lives, and the nature of everything, the nature of all the core questions that are yearning to be answered within us all, you know, are found within flat Earth realization. Without flat Earth realization, your whatever chance you might have of reaching this enlightenment within flat Earth realization, outside of it, you have no chance, because you're living in a fantasy. You know, what is the real nature of the Earth? Beyond very, very limited bounds, you know, you're getting into the great unknown. So, yeah, this is the ineffable, isn't it? What is the bigger picture here? But yeah, you know, if you still think you're living on a spinning sphere, traveling aimlessly through empty space forever and ever, you know, I mean, you couldn't be much further from the truth, in my estimation. That's all it is from where I'm at. Of course, I'm the only one speaking for me and from me. So I think most flat earthers will relate to that as well. You know, we have left infinite space behind, and we have come to inhabit a completely different realm, where space takes on a completely different meaning again. You know, you can go outside the boundaries of the very limited scope we have in flat Earth, and you can ask all the difficult questions. Well, what's beyond? Is it infinite beyond? You know, if there are waters, a lot of flat Earth will talk about waters beyond, and that's where I'm at myself. Everything is water, I think. So we're sort of like some sort of a bubble in a big endless water. Now, what exactly is water? Water is the most probably mysterious substance in the universe. It can take in so many different forms, you know. So all we can do is describe certain forms it takes, but we cannot sort of get a grasp, scientifically speaking anyway, on the essence of it, you know. And I think it is a core essence. But beyond that, again, another ineffable. I'm sure all the answers are there within us. And we're just maybe playing the game of forget. But yeah. You know, again, once you just step beyond the comfortable bounds of stationary Earth and flat water, then you're facing all of these difficult questions. And I think it's a sort of the needs must stage as well. You will reach that stage, you know, after you let's say you went into flat Earth a couple of weeks ago. Let's say this billboard that was in the news over the last week, let's say that inspired someone who was listening just to look into flat Earth. And then, of course, once you take the notion seriously, you soon become a flat earther, because the evidence, and especially now, the evidence is undeniable. I mean, way back in the early days, if you will, very little information around. Very little information. And where you know, people talk about the Flat Earth Society. People who say that about Clues Forum as well. Oh, that's a shill haunt, you know, that's disinformation. And fair enough. I mean, it's you've heard the suggestion put forward. You've heard the suspicion. So now you can go in and investigate yourself and get a feel for what might be going on, you know. And of course, when you do enter, you find that so much has been written about, so many varied and sundry topics, that it's impossible to take a one-liner seriously. And while we do entertain the idea that at this stage, especially when you first enter the conspiracy mansion, you know, you're sort of, you have no clue, you have nothing to base your sort of future progression on. It's all new territory. So you're wet behind the ears, and you're open and susceptible to everything. It's only through experience then that you realize that, listen, all within the conspiracy world isn't as clean as your washed linen. You know, it's not that cut and dry. So once you get to a certain stage, then I think the only sensible thing to do is to leave the personalities behind, for the most part. Now, sure, if you develop a friendship with somebody, hopefully for the right reasons, yeah, of course, take it further. That's, you know, natural. But in general, yeah, I think it should be all mostly about the information. So we realize that, you know, there are people here strewn about to misguide, to again divert, to discredit in one form or another, whatever. So the problem becomes who is who? How do you identify who is who? And this is a question for the investigator. It's the individual's question. And anything I do say, it's just me offering up my thoughts on the matter, coming from my particular trip through the tall grasses of the fields of conspiracy. So yeah, it's a shadowy world. Skies are slippery grey. A woman just gave birth to a prince today and placed him at the feet of a harlot. That's a line from Joker Man. I might sing that actually in a while. I think I've sang it on my own channel. It's a great song, but it goes on for ages. Another one of those songs that if you're not into maybe Dylan, it might get a bit repetitive, and you know, you might tend to switch off. But if you're into Dylan, there's certainly great songs to sing. I don't know how to come across really, but yeah, which Dylan? That's another rabbit hole as well, which I've talked about before. So again, you have to leave all these personalities you maybe cling to in one sense or another behind, you know. And again, take the information. And when you look at Dylan's music and his prolific career, I guess I certainly look at it differently now. all the cryptic lyrics and the sort of the mystique attached to his songwriting. I'm not going to say it all vanishes, of course, because I don't know what anyone else what he knows, but um, yeah, a lot of things are definitely pointing in the same direction. Flat Earth been a big direction that most well-known musicians and artists will reference in some form or another. I think you'll find, especially the more famous ones. I mean, because it's an open secret, you know, it's an open secret. I mean, for goodness sake, do you think that people, hundreds of flat earthers sitting down pointing at the flaws of NASA, do you think that all the secret service agencies or intelligence agencies in every country worldwide hasn't this long figured out, or doesn't know from the get-go? No, so it's not. You know, something else is working on the bigger scale of things. So we do well to bear it in mind. They like to give you the impression. They like to give you the impression that, you know, they're incompetent, incapable, clumsy, you know, desperate almost. You know, it's just a clusterfuck. You know, but I think the opposite is true. This is. I remember when I went over to the building sites to work in England after school here, maybe 17, and being an Irish man, you just, I suppose, it's this stereotype of the dumb paddy, you know, the drunk dumb paddy. So after so many people just automatically treat you like that because you are Irish, then, you know, what are you going to do? You can try to put people right, and of course, if you get to know individuals better, they'll soon see that, well, you might be dumb, but you're not as dumb as is being made out. But otherwise, you just pretend you're dumb, you know, and you know what's happening. And then people always are surprised at the end of the day, depending on what sort of relationships you develop or the situation. But yeah, how long is it before it gets into 9/11? But the same with 9/11. Oh, people are going, all the conspiracy guys, look at the building 7. Look at how they made that slip up. You know, look at how they announced the destruction of it before, and was still standing in the background with Jane Stanley. Or look at how Larry Silverstein accidentally said "pull it," you know, and a million and one other slips like that. You know, the missile that, the plane that hit the Pentagon. You know, another slip of the tongue, and all the different conspiracy guys coming up. Barry Jennings, you know, surviving the attacks, and yet talking about possible bombs in the basement, or no, he's talking about dead bodies lying all over building 7. I remember being into that, and suddenly he turns up dead then, and someone who was investigating, I remember this, and you're almost you're almost on tenterhooks as you're reading it, like, you know. So Barry Jennings, if you don't remember him, he was a big heavy guy, and he was given his interview was broadcast far and wide, especially over the internet, anyway, whatever about mainstream. But he was talking about having to walk over bodies in a lights out situation in building 7. And then you had, I can't remember who it was, one particular investigator anyway, followed up some leads. And then, as if my memory serves me, he came back with something, he encountered something so scary that he's dropping everything, you know. And that's sort of the last you hear of that. Then everyone's families, Barry Jennings' family moved out of town. Barry Jennings dead and buried, and never to be heard of again. And here we are as investigators and left with this cliffhanger. You know, we're being like a horror movie. We're being sort of led into the spooky corners. You know, and the arrows. We're following the arrows that are pre-laid for us, but of course we don't know that they are arrows. We don't recognize that this is. We have to go some way in our investigation, so we don't recognize that it's all a trap. And, you know, this is the thing, it's all a trap. One thing we have to realize about Flat Earth, if whoever is responsible for all of this, and who knows, we might be responsible for it ourselves, who knows, it's just, it could be a sort of a hyper reality gaming experience. You know, we just can't make the call. We're so ignorant moving forward from here. But yeah, when you enter that world for the first time, you don't know that it's a grander game, if you will. So you're on tenterhooks at every step of the way, and there's plenty of drama presented to you. That's for certain. And of course, the first thing you want to do then is when you come by new truths, is to pass them on to your friends and your family and your loved ones and your children or whatever, because these are core truths, and there is in such a great conflict with present understanding that you must object, Your Honor. You have to come out and say something. What are you supposed to do? Just bottle it into yourself and not say anything to anybody ever, and just continue thinking a certain way, which is totally separate and segregated from the way, let's say, 90% of people, 99% of people think, But anyway, yeah, there's many of these different layers that are inserted. It's almost like a beehive, It's the different. Once you make your way through the first layer, you've got another layer below you, and I think it does sort of converge. All right, for me, the most part, this is the whole point about media fakery. And media fakery isn't just, oh, here we go, he's talking about 9/11. No, I'm not talking about 9/11. That's just one instance where this tool is used against people, but there are millions of others, especially in flat Earth, where all the evidence for the heliocentric Big Bang model is presented to us via media, via images, so we have to have a skeptical eye of all media, and anything that's been presented to us as truth. Especially coming from known deceivers, if you will, which is officialdom. Officialdom have been proven deceivers time and time again. So we have to have that hyper-skeptical attitude and approach when we are dealing with anything to do with anything, really, anything to do with anything in terms of our movement forward in this realm we find ourselves. We know it's not a spinning ball now, so we for once we're on solid ground, solid stationary ground, so we can take it from there. But this has to apply to everything. As I said, flat Earth is only one. Well, it's not the biggest, I think, but it's one of the biggest conspiracies ever. So if every other conspiracy is controlled, and believe me, it's controlled, the number of hours and hours, thousands upon thousands of hours of research have been done. And just let's say the likes of the JFK case, it's still ongoing. 50 years later, people are still at it full time, investigating one man in particular, Jim Fetzer, who's a great man. He's a great man indeed, but he's completely wrong. And this is the thing, this is taken very seriously by a whole section of society. And again, there's books pumped out yearly, on many books every year on these topics, So again, it's ongoing story. It's not. It's constantly being fed, and you're constantly being reminded of it. I think recently there was more mini drama or whatever, mini series about the Kennedys, and just their whole well, what we know now is a sort of a completely actor's role. This is all these people were. And again, not to be controversial, but I mean, Jackie Kennedy being a man, when does this begin and end? I found out here, looking at something else, and Einstein. Oh yeah, I was just pointing out to people that Einstein was another character. And, just bring up a Google search and you'll see a different man playing the older and then the more TV or image-friendly older man. So that's the reason I went looking for that. But then I saw his wife and I realized it's a bloke. It's a bloke in a dress. And it's the same with the daughter, So again, when does the fabrication begin and end? And this is the question each individual must ask. I think there's an onus on us, for flat earthers, and we've come this far, well, what then? What's next? So, yeah, I think it's like it's a one-way path. It's a path to truth. So we must choose. You have truth or untruth, you know. And yeah, I've been saying it for ever so long. We have to, within these sort of formats, we have to realize the nature of the arena we're in. So, cheers. Yeah, we have to really realize the nature of the arena we're in. And of course, we're dealing with personalities at every hand's turn. We all go to certain YouTube channels or certain recommended videos or whatever, you know. So there are people at the forefront. Now, there's no leaders on flat Earth. We're all our own leaders. I'm saying that from the very start. And that's what we all have to wake up to and realize, you know. So anyone who does have that, it's not an assumed position as well, but, you know, have that sort of position where there are people following, and he or she is representing such an important topic, which is flat Earth truth. I mean, you know, there's no, well, a better way to put it would be the ball Earth deception, you know. So yeah, people need to be scrutinized. People need to be asked questions if there's questions pending, if there's doubts, you know what I mean. It seems only fair, especially when there's maybe limits on what can be talked about, or certain areas are being talked about more than other areas, or, you know, just anything, especially if the person in question then is coming from a background where there might be justifiable cause for some suspicion. After all, who do we know here? I'm sitting here talking to a screen. So what am I going to do? Give my trust out blindly? Well, that'd be a foolish thing to do, wouldn't it? Now, at the same time, are you going to mistrust everybody? Well, I suppose you have to a certain extent, but you can't take it too seriously. You can't get too involved in trust or not trust. You look at the information again, and you roll with it. And depending on how it fits in with you and your own frames of mind, well, then you will take it or leave it. I think eventually, you know, we'll all come by the same truth. I think we're all on, just like, imagine this expansive, massive highway, but we're all on our own individual roads, you know, and variations in the roads, but we're all sort of parallel to one another. And at the very end, all those roads converge into one core truth. And yeah, again, this is what it's all about, truth, I think. What else, you know? What else? If we settle for lies, then, you know, we don't think much of ourselves, do we? We don't think much of, and it's an easy thing to do as well. This is flat Earth on top of everything else is a lonely old station. It really is. Ultimately, I think that's the idea, though. It is an individual's journey. So the individual has to wake up himself or herself. You know, there are people placed along the path with vital information, you know, and learn so much. We've compared to 7 years ago, knew fuck all, you know, knew nothing. You know, even compared to a year ago, I would say I knew pretty much nothing. So, you know, every step along the way has been, in one big sense, vital to getting me, or getting us to where we are at this particular point. Now, you're the best yourself to evaluate where you think you are. But yeah, know that there's a greater puzzle to be solved out there. That's the thing, and we're all well capable of joining together and helping solve that puzzle, I think. And I think it's, everyone is feeling it, like that we're coming towards some sort of breaking point. When the Oroville Dam broke again, you know, I certainly don't take these stories as literal anymore, so it's symbolic for the most part. But at the same weekend, you had Kyrie Irving coming out talking about flat Earth, and that made a big noise in the mainstream. And just that it coincided with the Oroville Dam, and for me, the floodgates have opened. Oroville, golden city, so maybe in for a golden age, you know. And I predicted at the time then that you would see personalities coming forward, because there's going to have to be a liaison between flat Earth. It's such a big idea, such a massive idea. It's a truth, you know. So that's why the floodgates are open. Once you open, there's no going back. You know, it's like, can you go back now to being a globular Earth believer? I don't. A few people have, apparently, but for the vast majority, it's an impossibility. The only thing that's up in the air now is the answers to some of the remaining questions on how the overall system works and gels and pieces together. And we understand that just because we don't have all the answers, that doesn't mean that, you know, you have to revert to a previous system or model or a theoretical model that claimed to have all the answers, which of course, in reality, it had none of the answers. The lies can never be true, you know. A false thing can never be made a true thing. It's an impossibility. So I wonder, can God make a false thing be a true thing? You know, or can he make a true thing be a false thing? So, yeah, interesting times. That was, I have to say, I mean, there's very little to laugh about these days, but I had to laugh at the outburst last night, or the drama last night on Beyond the Imaginative Curves channel. I mean, Matt Boylan is an actor. He's even admitted that he's an actor in one of his videos. He's playing a role, like, you know, and I mean, he's not going to come out and straight tell you, but he's going to give you clues. And one of the big clues was he was beat up, you know, or he was in a car accident or something like that, and he's gone around with a bloody tissue, and the knee is cut out of his pants, and all this sort of stuff. And immediately when you look at it, you go, "Hang on, now what's something's not right here." So he's sort of muffling his way through a story, and you're sort of getting bits and pieces of that. Then you're paying a little bit more of attention to the blood stains or the handkerchief or the cut in the knee, and you see it's all fabricated. It's Boston bombings pants, you know. They're props and gimmicks. So I mean, this is kind of telling you outright, isn't it? Why do these things in the first place? And now it turns out that now, if Brian is listening, if you want to come in as well. Someone was saying that to me. Do you know what's coius? Is it COYSS? Cois. I think we're just saying that you made the find, and it looks that it might be true that Math Powerland, who had his wife on camera, I'm not sure if that was his wife in Beyond the Imaginary Curve yesterday, but apparently she's some other actress who's been involved with Dr. Phil, or, you know, shows like that, emotional, medical, pseudo medical, anyway, afternoon entertainment shows. So I mean, if that's the case, if that's a match, then look, that's another clue, I suppose, something we're meant to find out. So if you're around, Brian, or if you wanted to talk about that, or I haven't heard any more about that, if you've confirmed it, but that would be a pretty big thing, wouldn't it? That would be a pretty big thing to expose. But again, I think he's letting you know. He's already said it verbally that he's acting a part. I'm not going to fucking find the video now or whatever. You know, I just passed it by. But I long since understood that he's an actor, you know, on the stage. So what are you supposed to do? Just keep calling people out as actors? Well, what do you? It's sort of prone to be controversial as well, isn't it? But look, fuck it. If that's the worst thing anyone says about you and it's not true, well, then you have nothing to fear, nothing to hide, you know. Now, if it is true, that's fine. You can deal with it and move on. There's never any judgment against the man or the woman. I don't know why people would be playing an acting role. I can imagine some scenarios, but I wouldn't know if they were true or not. you know. So for me to judge the person would be, I don't have the authority or the right, first of all, but also it'd be foolish, you know. I'm not in possession of the full facts. So again, the people could be acting for the very best, you know, motivations ultimately, even though it appears to be something different in the meantime. You know, we ourselves could be completely different beings, entities, existences than what we know, and this just being a small, tiny part of it, you know. So, right, let me go into chat, because I could be sitting here now just talking to myself, which would be fine as well if it wasn't coming through. But yeah, how are you doing? 21, the 777, Blackjack, 21 viewers. So I'll just say hello to a few people. Thanks for joining in. Srimati, how you doing? Good to see you. We don't have any name or face to attach to you. And how you doing? Mom is here as well. I guess it's the same with you, Mom, but we know whose side you're on. Teddy Carl, how you doing, Teddy? JJ, Rebel. Nathan Oakley, how are you doing, Nathan? How you doing, Yvette? Cynthia, how are you doing, Cynthia? Thanks for tuning in and not dropping out, eh? Yeah, so everything seems to be coming through okay since I turned down that camera issue. Yeah, I want to sing a few more songs. Not sure what I'll sing. Have you heard, Yvette Rebel asks, have you heard the Dave Matthews song Dodo? I haven't. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But one thing I know, that there's so much information on the Dodo. There really is, you know, and the Dodo is out of the bag. The Dodo is out of the bag. The biggest clue for me, of course, and I was saying this already, that, you know, Radiohead being associated with the 9/11 ritual, or symbolic sort of non-event, if you will. Yeah, I knew that there were insiders. So, like everything else, clues are left everywhere. Clues are left in movies, works of art, music compositions, all of this sort of stuff. And, you know, it's up to us to glean whatever we can from it. So, yeah, I was thinking, if anyone's going to be involved with the Dodo, on the back of 9/11 as well, because it's played such an important role for me, and of course many, in terms of waking up. But I said, if anyone is going to have something to do with the Dodo, it's going to be Radiohead. And, you know, also another connection, Tom York is the lead singer, so New York, of course. And yeah, typed in Radiohead and the Dodo, and much to my big surprise and joy, I guess, find out that Tom's brother and I don't think this is true in the slightest, like, but Tom's brother named him as a nickname when he was a child, Dodo, you know, and he was also called Salamander in school. Two very strange nicknames, like, you know, and of all the nicknames to be called, the Dodo. So again, that's a big clue. But there's clues everywhere, yeah. But definitely one to when I go through all the different things regarding the Dodo, Yvette, I'll definitely have a listen to that. And again, my idea is that the Dodo is the actual representation, it's like scale-wise, of and orientation of the various continental land masses on this flat Earth of ours after the inundation. This was a mapping done after, if you want to say, catastrophe struck. They talk about the biblical flood. Well, what if that wasn't 4,000 years ago, and instead, what if it was 400 years ago? How would we know? You know, I mean, it's one of those questions, isn't it? We have to sort of go back to basics and then re-examine everything if we take the question seriously. And certainly, there are investigators that do take the question seriously, and Anatoly Fomenko is one who talks about the complete fabrication of the Dark Ages, you know, talking about 1,000 years or so just being completely made up, you know, whole cloth. Nico Haupt expands further on that idea and talks about no primary source material dating back to 1649-ish, you know, and he has done, I haven't read his book now, Delacroix has his book, and it's tough going. I have read something about the premise of his search and his idea behind the book. But yeah, you know, no source material, no primary material dating back to before that year. So these are all possibilities. And whether you want to entertain them or not, that's down to you. Again, I certainly do entertain them. I think it's ultimately all about finding the truth. So if you just like set yourself one question, I mean, what happens when you answer that question satisfactorily? Or what happens when you can't answer that? Do you just stop in your tracks? That's not how it works. Is you sort of have to come at everything from all sides, because you don't know where the center holds. So yeah. So again, this idea is taken seriously, and I definitely take it seriously as well these days. And you know, when we see the scope and the extent of the fabrications associated with the different systems that we took for gospel, if you will, in modern times, then you know, these ideas and these notions shouldn't be so far-fetched, or at least you shouldn't look upon them as being so left of field as to be out of the park, you know, inconsiderable, really. I'll have to think about what song to sing. I haven't really well, Lottie says that flat earth is fucking stupid. Well, I mean, you seem to keep coming back to flat earth, Lottie. So, I mean, it's the fool who followed the fool. So, it's either stupid or it isn't, man, you know. It's either stupid or you're stupid, you know. Could be both. Could be neither. Do. Well, I talked about that. The origins of the word dude. Hey, dude. Come on, dude. Doobie. That's another good one that Realtor gave me. Doobie. A doob. D-O-O-B. So you invert the two letters. And I was saying it on Jamie's channel last night. This is where I make the 420 connection with the doob, the Dodo. 420, I've asked the question before. I mean, what are the origins of this 420? What's it about? I mean, you know, we know it's associated with cannabis, and it's sort of a day where I guess the law doesn't apply, or the legalities don't apply, you know, so people are free to celebrate cannabis on that day. But is there more to the story than that? Well, yeah, well, I think so. And again, doob. You take the Dodo, D-O-D-O, and you sort of reverse the last D, and you get doob, a nice doobie, cannabis association there. And then 420. Well, if you count forward from the date that the Dodo was first discovered. Now, if the Dodo is not in fact a reality, so in other words, doesn't represent any real living animal at one point, you know. And it is a symbolic representation, you know, an encoded representation. But then everything written about it will be encoded and chosen for specific reasons and have a significance. You know, this is just how it's done. And I gave the example of Eratosthenes. You know, I didn't believe he was a real character. And therefore, if the character was constructed within the name, they would have provided, I guess, the key, you know, a core of truth would be entwined within the name, anagrammatically speaking, I guess. But yeah, when I found it, then I said, brilliant, that's it, because it sums it up perfectly. Eratosthenes is an anagram of sees not earth. And of course, Eratosthenes sees not earth because he he envisaged, not that he existed anyway, but he envisaged a fantasy, a fabrication based on initial assumptions, faulty assumptions, as we know now. You know, when anyone using the scientific method, looking up at the clouds and seeing the crepuscular clouds, would have no reason absolutely to assume that the sun was billions of miles away, or many millions of miles away. Why would you even think in terms of millions? You know, we've all experienced a mild summer's day, for instance, and a little wispy cloud will come over and noticeably drop the temperature. You know, these things wouldn't be associated upon initial investigation with a blazing furnace, massive ball of flames at vast distances away. You know, so yeah, encoded within the words they choose to use, or the names they choose to offer up, are these core truths, I think. So it's the same with the Dodo. Everything is significant in a different sense, though, and that's where I see it. I think it's 1598, first mention of the Dodo, and of course I mentioned this as well. Found, so you had this Dodo, this docile bird who didn't seem to fear any enemy, running around the island, and it was found with giant turtles as well. Giant turtles were mentioned in the same sentence. And I was saying this to Dell yesterday as well, and he knows, but with Terry Pratchett, his Discworld series of novels and I guess TV series, etc. Now, yeah, we have the picture of the flat Earth disk on the back of 4 elephants who are resting on the shell of a giant turtle as he swims through infinite space. But again, not to take it literally, but allegorically, a representative of, well, of course, we associate turtles with water. So this would indicate to me that we're dealing with waters beyond on all sides. So, yeah, so interesting that Dodo was found, or was said to have been found in Mauritius, east of Madagascar, and yeah, mentioned in the same sentence as giant turtles. So everything then becomes significant, I think, in one form or fashion or another. And it's 420 years next year since the Dodo was discovered. What I think the actual Dodo, again, is a correctly scaled map, a model of the interconnectedness of all the land masses and continental land masses. Just to give you a little head start, not a head start, but if you imagine the tip of South America as the beak, and you can see the contour of South America as we know it, as we picture it, to sort of wrap around the head area, and then it comes up to meet with Mexico, and around in the breast area then there's North America, Canada. And around the wing area you have the North Center, and all of the different continents wrap around them in a sort of like an oval shape overall, an elliptical shape. So my contention is that encoded within this is the actual layout of the flat Earth, again, since 1598. So I'm thinking 1598 was the year it all began. So shit happened then. Maybe time had a completely different meaning again. We were dealing with a different system before that. But yeah, so this is why the Dodo is attributed to being discovered in 1598, because that's when the inundation took place. And the new Earth, the face of the Earth changed, so the new Earth was roughly mapped. I think, obviously up to this day, but technologies carried over, hidden secret technologies that were commonplace in the old realm, carried over. So, yeah, we're not to be thinking in terms of, you know, sailors spending months and years mapping every inch of the new face of the Earth. You know, no, I think advanced technologies were in place and we're easily capable of doing that. So let me just drop that anyway. That's just, and again, there's so many different pieces of information just regarding that. So I'll have to make a video because, yeah, there's connections all around. There really is, and I do think it is significant. So, okay. I can't for the life of me think of a song to sing of all the songs that I know. Okay, well, maybe I'll do that one then, and then I'll take, that's a bit long though, so I can turn on the light in a minute, man. It's a bit long, but I think I'll do it actually, because I fancy singing the song. Yeah. And maybe if anyone wants to come in as well, you can just let me know. All right. Okay, I'll give this a blast. If you haven't gathered, I like singing Bob Dylan songs, but they do go on a bit. They're great songs in themselves, you know, but if you're not a Dylan fan, you might be tempted to tune off, so tune out. But that's fine as well. This is called Idiot Wind. This is back from 1966, would you believe? Which is, that's 51 years, I think, almost 52 years, next year. All right. Okay. Someone's got it in for me. They're planting stories in the press. Whoever it is, I wish they cut it out quick, but when they will, I can only guess. They say I shot a man named Gray and took his wife to Italy. She inherited $1 million, and when she died, it came to me. I can't help it if I'm lucky. People see me all the time, but they just don't remember how to act. Their minds are filled with big ideas, with images and distorted facts. Even you, yesterday, you had to ask me where I was at. I couldn't believe after all those years that you didn't know me any better than that. Sweet lady. Idiot wind, blowing every time you move your mouth, blowing down the back roads heading south. Idiot wind, blowing every time you move your teeth. You're an idiot, babe. It's a wonder that you still know how to breathe. I ran into the fortune teller who said beware of lightning that might strike. I have not known peace and quiet, well, for so long I can't remember what it's like. There's a lone soldier on the cross, smoke pouring out of a boxcar door. You didn't know it, you didn't think it could be done. In the final end, he won the war after losing every battle. I woke up on the roadside, just daydreaming about the way things sometimes are. Well, visions of your chestnut mare shoot through my head and making me see stars. When you hurt the ones that I love best, you cover up the truth with lies. One day you'll be in the ditch with flies buzzing around your eyes, blood on your saddle. Eddie wind blowing through the flowers on your tomb, blowing through the curtains in your room. Eddie wind blowing every time you move your teeth. Well, you're an idiot, babe. It's a wonder that you still know how to breathe. Well, it was gravity which pulled us down, and destiny which tore us apart. You tamed the lion in my cage, but it just wasn't enough to change my heart. Now everything's a little upside down. As a matter of fact, the wheels have stopped. What's good is bad, what's bad is good. You find out when you reach the top, you're on the bottom. I noticed at the ceremony, your corrupt ways have finally made you blind. I can't remember your face anymore, your mouth has changed, your eyes don't look into mine. Well, the priest wore black on the seventh day and sat stone-faced while the building burned. I waited for you on the running boards beneath the cypress tree while the springtime turned slowly into autumn. Eddie wind blowing like a circle around my skull, from the Grand Capitol to the battleground. Eddie wind blowing every time you move your teeth. You're an idiot, baby. It's a wonder that you still know how to breathe. I can't feel you anymore. I can't even touch the books you've read. Every time I crawled by your door, I was wishing I was somebody else instead. Down the highway, down the tracks, down the road to ecstasy, I followed you beneath the stars, hounded by your memory and all your rage and fury. Well, I've been double-crossed now for the very last time, and now I'm finally free. I kiss goodbye to the howling beast on the borderline that separated you from me. Oh, you'll never know the hurt I suffered, nor all the pain I rise to. And I'll never know the same about you, your holiness or your kind of love, and it makes me feel so sorry. Eddie blowing through the buttons on our coat, blowing through the letters that we wrote. Eddie blowing through the dust upon our shelves. We're idiots, baby. It's a wonder we can even feed ourselves. Idiot Wind. Pretty harsh song. It's a great song though. I mean, obviously I don't do it justice, but Blood on the Tracks, 1966. Just type it into YouTube. Yeah, very harsh, very cutting and biting song. But yeah, these are the these are the nature of the times we've always been in. I guess we've always been in. So I hope that came through across okay. Didn't feel the best singing that now. I don't feel the best when I'm sort of reading out the lyrics, you know what I mean? But it's been a long time now, so if I was just going on memory, I'd lose the lyrics and fuck it up completely. So yeah, I hope that came across okay. I'm just going to have a few minutes break. I'll turn on the light here as well, and I'll be back then. Well, I've been riding number 9, just heading south for Caroline. I heard the long whistle blow. I got in trouble, had to roam. I left my girl, I left my home. I heard the long some whistle blow. I'm just a kid who's running smart. I went and broke my darling's heart. I guess I was too blind to see. They took me off to Georgia, Maine. They locked me up in ball and chain. I heard the long whistle blow. I'm just a kid who's running smart. I went and broke my darling's heart. I guess I was too blind to know. They took me on to Georgia, Maine. They locked me up in ball and chain. I heard the long whistle blow. 10 points for anyone who can who can tell me who wrote that or who sang that. And that's another interesting story in itself. I mean, it's easier to look back at all of these characters presented to us and their stories attached, and ask which isn't faked, you know, which isn't a fabricated death and life, for that matter. I mean, any of our recent investigations should tell us clearly that the likes of George Michael, Prince, who else did you have? David Bowie was a big one, you know. It doesn't in recent times that these are all faked, staged affairs, you know, anomaly-ridden narratives that are, well, for me anyway, easily recognizable as hoaxes, if you will. Exit stage left. You know, the man lives. The man puts on a suit. You know. Well, you know, if I was to ask if I was to mention the name David Bowie, and ask you to draw a picture of what immediately came to your mind, I bet there'd be 100 different pictures out there. You know, because everyone has a different idea of David Bowie. But yeah, of course, the man separate from the name, if you will. So the stage name dies, and the man exits stage left. And they've just been making it more and more clear in recent times, but it's certainly not a new practice. Michael Jackson, of course, faked his death. Elvis Presley faked his death, you know, when you go back again. But yeah, just to give you the answer to that, was Hank Williams. I suspect Hank Williams also faked his death, died mysteriously at a very young age. With a car crash into a tree, you know, going at 30 miles an hour, something like that. You know, ridiculous story. There was no drama involved. It was just the car crashed into a tree. That's it. God rest you, Hank. So I think what's happening is these people are groomed for these roles. Then they fake their death and they say take on a new role. Then, you know what I mean? So if someone in passing recognizes the face or sees a resemblance, they'd say to themselves, well, it can't be, because so-and-so is dead, Hank Williams is dead. So very clever, isn't it? Very fiendish. And yeah, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. If everything is stagecraft, well then, you're going to have actors everywhere. The more influential the area, the influential the medium, especially when it comes to likes of television or newspapers, anything that will reach a wide audience and has a potential for mass sort of effect, will be controlled from the get-go, necessarily, and they're well accustomed to grooming, if you will, all future players. Who knows what they're led into as well, led into a big secret. What is the big secret? Well, I think the big secret is about Earth. I think the big secret is we live in a flat Earth, and something happened. Something catastrophic happened, and we're in the process of rebuilding. That's certainly one avenue that I consider, so if this is all about us, remembering, then, a different game is at play. And who's to say that these characters and actors on the scene are not playing a role for that greater good, which is the mass awakening of everybody. When you look at the likes of the nonsense that NASA presents us as reality, you have to ask yourself the question. I mean, a dog with a mallet up his arse can spot that you're dealing with fakery here. You don't have to be any sort of top level genius to work this out. So the question you have to ask is, why are they making such a hames of it? That's an interesting expression as well, isn't it? A hames. Where does that come from? I can't even spell that. H-E-I-M-S. A hames of it. Well, why are they purposefully doing that? They have pretty much unlimited budget, and they have fantastic fabrication aiding technology there, in terms of CGI or movie magic techniques. So they don't need to produce shit to us. They don't need to show a guy going across. Remember in one of the recent NASA offerings, there was a guy, Superman style, going across the back of the screen, and you could clearly see the two supporting wires. We're seeing this because they want us to see it. So why do they want us to see it? And you see, you're branching off into different questions. And again, one thing is that we are seeing it, and I think you'll find as well that maybe it is changing, but in general, when you point it out to people, they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. It'll be a thought and go, oh well, it's possible, I suppose, and then think about something else. So this is the apathy, as I've often said about the NASA fakery. Clues Forum have been doing that. I'm going to get up that thread actually now, because I've been talking about that a lot. So that's something to do. Let me get up that thread. Been there. That's been 2000 and if I'm not mistaken, 2000 and. So let me just share my screen. Okay. I'll just in case anyone who's heard me talking about Clues Forums, just purely as pretty much a library of research material. It's been detailed and logged and listed, and it's like anything else. You take the information as it hits you. No one is asking you. There's various and sundry posters over the years. No one's asking you to believe anything that anyone says ever about anything. So this is just the same here. This is an investigation into hoaxery in general, media fakery in general, and they have many different areas. I mean, just for instance, on this September Clues, the 9/11 Saab exposed, the media aired a made-for-TV Hollywood movie, which was pre-prepared, and that is 57 topics with 3,022 posts. That's fairly hefty, Same the victims, like 67 topics, victims, simulated. So it's not just someone saying no one died. It's not just me, Baldy Pete in Ireland, Baldy Dom Paddy in Ireland saying 3,000 people died and that's it. This is just, and this is only a section of the research that's done. There's plenty to be found elsewhere as well. So there's 67 threads here and 5,200 posts. Same again, a different topic completely. The hoax infrastructure, who's behind it? 50 and 1,200 posts. This is substantial by anyone's standards, and there's different areas. But here's the area we're looking for. Just give you some other areas. Worldwide media deceptions. Everything is covered. Yeah, World War. That's a very interesting section. World War I, World War II, nuke hoax, the Cold War, JFK. Local psyops, very interesting as well, because of course these things are not just internationally based, or nationally and even locally. We're being tricked, and necessarily so, because again everything is based on a trick in the first place, a rich man's trick, if you will. Except the rich man, a man who has all the money isn't rich, because the money's worth nothing. The real currency that is dealt in those at the table of power is a different currency entirely. I'm thinking out of this world, even, sort of thing. But anyway, into here, Apollo and more space hoaxes, 85 topics, 8,446 posts. And I'm just going to go in. All of these topics are substantive and indeed very, very revealing. Once you get to a certain point, you understand that you're dealing with fakery. So from a certain point forward, you're pretty much just you're set on the fakery aspects. You're just exposing more evidences that can be used to indicate fakery. So again, when these sweeping comments are made, 9/11 media fakery, 3,000 victims, it's a sort of a catchphrase in a sense, but the idea being that, look, the research is there. The onus is on you, the individual. First of all, if you're bothered enough to find out, if you found out that this was the case, would it affect you? And if you answer yes to that, then the research is there, and you're free to at least go over that before being so solid on a point of view or a stance. Not to mind a ridiculing response, or a dismissive response. So yeah, you can see all the satellites. This is 58 pages. This is going since 2011. Hubble telescope or bubble, same, 2011. These are all the views actually. Sorry. But what I was after is, what was I after? Which is the big topic now. Well, satellites is one of them, but that's not the one I was thinking of now, is it? Yeah. It wasn't it? Apollo as well. Yeah, the ISS, that's it. That's the one I was thinking of, sorry. So here we go on June 11th. That's funny as well, isn't it? June 11th, 2011. 6 times 11 is 66. So that could have been intentional. Simon Shack is the owner of this forum, and he and Hoi Polloi, Max Conradi, are responsible for the vast majority of the maintenance and the contributions as well. But again, this is going since 2011. Now, when you go through all of this, you're fascinated, of course, because first of all, you haven't considered it. It's new territory, and especially at the time. I remember going along with it at the time, pretty much from page one, really. So this is just some of the detail that's gone into every nook and cranny is examined. So with all of this work, this is only page one. I'm not even going to go into reading this. This is just comparing some of the different images presented to us, and then when you look at them, you're noticing pretty fundamental in your face differences, that don't seem at first glance to match up. And this is strewn all over the images that are presented to us as well, just to confound and confuse, you know. And this is the point I came on here. Look, this is the reason I'm pointing this out. It's just one page. I can go to any particular page. Every one of those pages are worth looking into as well, because, you know, there's great information and great research gone into it. And for the most part, it's just presenting, which is pretty much all we can go on, the narrative or the imagery that is presented to us, and dictated to us, that it is a representation of reality, a representation of reality. And yeah, of course, it's strewn with anomalies, contradictions, impossibilities, flaws. So you know, after a while, you make the call. Look at this. This is, you know, this is an image that was presented. Oh, look, you can even see that. You get the transparent astronaut. Now, you have to ask yourself, this is an actual image. Look, everything is linked as well. So if you, yeah, if you want to find out where this came from initially, there's a link here. It's sort of a prerequisite. When you're coming in with any information, it has to be listed and verifiable, at least the source anyway. So yeah, and look here, it all crosses over when all of this footage is analyzed. This is just some footage from the Dodo brothers in 9/11. You see images like this all the time. People with half heads cut off, or people in the crowds blending into one another. You know. So again, this is all movie magic techniques. But the question you have to ask yourself here is that, didn't the people who were realizing the con, or sorry, didn't the people who were presenting this to the audience and who were perpetrating a fraud realize this, that the astronaut is transparent? You know, couldn't have done any better job at concealing the lie? So again, a different question poses itself. We're being showed, we're being, everything we see, we're meant to see, and yeah, everything was, all the flaws included. And look at this nonsense. Look at there's the curve, the curvature. Look at how near the horizon is. And again, this is presented as real footage from the moon. You know, now somewhere, I think somewhere within the legal world, there's just at the very get-go, NASA was defined as entertainment. So where anything goes, it's not within entertainment. It's not as if you can't lie, because if you couldn't lie, well then, you know, there'd be pretty much no entertainment. It's all about fabricating scenarios and you know, presenting them for the purposes of pure entertainment for the most part. Of course, we know that that's not the true, the real purpose of this stuff. This is 1984 stuff. This is the propaganda that is fed to the masses for their eternal, I'm not going to say eternal consumption, but it's been going on since time immemorial. And again, there's controversy as to how far exactly that goes back. But yeah, the idea being that, you know, there's no mistakes. This image was presented to us as is, purposefully, and many people will get to look at it in the first place. Anyone conspiratorially minded will see that there's something wrong, that and make the argument, and then there'll be people waiting for you to call you a fool, you know, what you're seeing, or to explain it away by you know, just different processes at work in the frigid environment of the lunar, on the lunar surface. But yeah, but look, the point I'm making, the reason I came here, and this goes on, you know, all the way up to the present day. Let me just go to the present day, because I haven't, yeah, just up to June 2nd, you know. Yeah, I haven't read this, so I don't even know what's going on in the news recently and what they're commenting about. But yeah, as you can see, it's going on to the present day. But the idea being, who are we going to bring this to? Mr. and Mrs. NASA? Do you know their names even? Does anyone know their names? So who is going to be the sort of the target for ire? And once you realize that, this sort of exposure here, as we see in Clues Forum and again many other places now, is ongoing and has been ongoing for at least 5 or 6 years, not much longer in some corners, but it continues because we don't know who to lash out against, and you can be sure that all these structures have been set up to take the brunt, to take the fall. So, if we do get to take our ire out on some target, you can be sure that the real powers behind the real dangers will have plenty of plan Bs put away for themselves, and will have well laid out the pathway. So, yeah, so anyone who hasn't gone to Clues Forum, and it's very interesting as well, actually I'm going to take a look at that. And I predict as well, Simon, I predict that Simon will be very soon now, he'll be bringing out his SSS model, which is Simon Shack's effort at bringing everything together. So here we go, Matt. So SSS model. I predict now that it's been a long time in the follow-up. His revised version of his own model, Simon Shack's solar system, is in the wings and waiting to be. I'm just looking for it. Here we go. Yeah, it's in the wings and waiting to be rehatched, if you will, any day now. So I predict it will be coming up any day now, because we're reaching a sort of a boiling point. So a lot of things are going to come together from a lot of different angles, I'm thinking. And again, these are just, it's so in-depth, such studies, and so much sense is made throughout them all. The one thing Simon does cling to is the ball earth. So he's still going to face the basic questions, of curvature, of the behavior of water, and that's a sticking point. It's very suspicious with Simon's reaction to flat Earth and flat Earth inquiry. He didn't want any of it on this forum. So Simon, you sort of overplayed your cards there, but I understand what's going on as well. You could be you've been the open-minded man that you definitely presented yourself as being over the last 10 years or so. Flat Earth has a lot going for it, and even if it is wrong, it is most certainly worthy of investigation. So the fact that you ruled it out so harshly and so immediately raised red flags, of course, and I'm thinking you knew that was going to happen anyway. But Selene, I was just thinking about that word actually the other day. Selene, it's another name for the moon. Now, if you have a boreen in Ireland, it's like a little road, so Saleen, a little sun, and the moon. Yeah, I can make that connection. So yeah, so all the stuff that people are. This is my point as well. When I hear talking about, let's bust NASA and these people taking our money. We want our money back. Well, NASA are already busted in 1,000,001 ways. But who are you going to go to? Again, write a letter to Mr. and Mrs. NASA. Go to the government. Go to universities. None of them will listen. None of them will listen. So in that sense, activism is the only. To reach the masses, activism is the only way. Not just in reality. There's only a certain limited amount of people you can ever reach in terms of your daily effort, but yeah, in terms of these type of hangouts as well, and open discussion forums. So the only way to appeal directly to the people, because we can't appeal to the people who are, or the organizations who are responsible for the lies, for the deceptions, for our enslavement in the first place. And it is a top-down system, you know. So I'll leave clues forums there. There's some very interesting, actually, let me just briefly go back to very interesting thread. And when I, it's only when you think about it and in the context of everything else you've learned, it makes absolute sense then, you know. But the Titanic hoax, many of you thought about the Titanic hoax? I mean, once you get to a certain point, realize that all is not well with the Titanic. Where is that now? Realize all is not well with the Titanic official story. Then waiting nicely and snugly for you are a few different conspiracies. One of the biggest ones being the switcheroo, the Olympic switcheroo with the Titanic. And, you know, yeah, little arrows are pointed for you then to take that walk. One of the best pieces of evidence for that is how in your face is it. One of the best pieces of evidence is like a deep sea submersible went down, took some footage, and where the letters of the ship should be, Titanic, there was a big O or something, you know what I mean? It was like, it couldn't have been the letters of the Titanic, but it could easily have been the OL or something like that, or the M of the Olympic, you know. So again, it's sort of too easy, you know. You can't be falling into these little traps set for us so easily. And a lot of people get stuck in those sort of intermediate positions as well. But when you look a bit further then and deeper, yeah, fakery comes up. And I was thinking myself, no better fucking place to hide sweet Fanny Adams. No better place to hide sweet fuckholes in the middle of the deep ocean. You know, what are you going to do? Is you go out and check it? Is it take your snorkel with you? No, and it's also no coincidence that the maker of the movie Titanic, is James Cameron, is responsible for most of the images that we receive from the deep underwater submersibles. So again, in this day and age, look at the movie The Abyss or something, and it's using movie making technologies can be achieved with a realistic overtone to it. You know, it's again when you take the images in conjunction with the narrative being fed to you and the historical sort of significance that's been brainwashed into you throughout your life, then it all combines to have you in a nice susceptible condition, you know, to accepting everything that's pretty much been told at you. Yeah, I was only looking at a calendar recently and it showed various and sundry pictures of the Titanic. I think there was just one ship. I think that's all there was. I mean, think about it at the time. You're talking about, well, again, everything is different. You know, even going back 150 years, our history is completely different than what's been given to us. But at the time, anyway, the most expensive ship ever built, you know, was going to cost an absolute fortune in the currency of the day. You know, raising money for something like that, it would be tough enough to raise it for one ship, not to mind 3 ships. And you find there's very few, there's only one picture, I think, of the 2 ships side by side. When you examine that photograph, you find clear signs of fakery. This calendar that I saw, Titanic calendar, man, if I haven't got it here now, it was thrown out or something, but nearly every one of the photographs were, first of all, they were Getty images, Getty. It's like Associated Press images. These are not more vagaries like Mr. and Mrs. NASA. So you have no one to sort of point your finger at. You're mad as hell, but who are you going to punch? Whose direction are you going to punch in? So, yeah. So when you see pictures, so this thread basically just goes through this idea. You know, again, you see pictures of one ship being built, and yeah, we know the whole nonsense story about the iceberg. But yeah, as the thread progresses, the story unravels really, you know, and again, a lot of people getting stuck on the victims. You know, the certain people were certain influential, important, and opponents, if you will, of the Federal Reserve were on board that evening, and they happened to die with the ship. Well, no, they didn't. That's a story being fed to you. You know what I mean? Again, to fuel the conspiracy fires. Once you get beyond the official layer, which most people rest on immovably, so for probably most of their lives, you know, and yeah. But again, once you sort of once you first of all entertain the possibility, and then you string the pieces of evidence together, either doing the research yourself, or again, taking on board the research of others, then you realize that, yeah, it all makes so much sense. I was just looking for, yeah. So this comment is just, these photos clearly fake and were intended to make us believe they built 2 ships. I think that only one ship, Titanic, was built and it didn't sink, but was stolen and reappeared with another named the Olympic. So, I mean, that's pretty much what I think, you know what I mean? That's pretty much what I think is going on. And look, if this was a reality, you'd have hundreds of pictures showing the same. There's only a handful of pictures, and this has been photo forensically examined, and other methods of determining, you know, whether we're dealing with. Look, you can even look at the paste lines down here. It's pretty bad. Even just on first glance, I can see that there's something dodgy about that. And look at how shiny it looks as well at such an early stage of construction. So I imagine that this is the reality here, and you have, look at this faded out look here. So this is all badly added in, you know. So yeah, again, as you continue on, yeah, well, look, everything's connected. The Titanic connects to the JFK, to 9/11. It's all one sort of grand interweaved narrative. Not to be, again, taken literally, but to be interpreted in a different fashion, symbolically, ritualistically, whatever you want. But there is a deeper meaning behind all of these things. Yeah, so I'd recommend. Here we go. Look at this. This is clear. Yeah. And so this might be the real ship here. You can see the different clarities as you move down the ship, you know. I don't know, you might be able to attribute that to the different, that doesn't even look like the Titanic, actually. The climactic conditions here, maybe a fog rolling in, but they're all examined, as I said. I'm not going to get into it now. Yeah, so look, Brian here uses the photo forensic analysis tool, that you scan the photograph or you just enter it, and you know it shows up if there's any interference or anything added or anything touched up or anything like that. It will all show up in the photo forensics. And when you get an image like this, you can see that something has clearly been added, if not everything added. I mean, just from whole cloth, how easy would it be to fabricate this? So this is the point. It's not any of this talk of fakery is never just it's never just a brief statement and that's it. You know, it's an idea trying to be put across in the briefest terms possible. I think it's most effective terms possible. You know, research, like for instance, research flat Earth. You know, now someone reading that, it's a pretty simple message. So you either take it on board or you don't. 9/11 media fakery, and 9/11 complete media and victim fakery. Right? You've heard the idea. You either research it or you don't. You know. Same with the Titanic. Did the Titanic? Is there any ship at the bottom of the Titanic? At the bottom of the ocean? You know. Well, you either care about it or you don't. I think all of these investigations and all of these findings, just for the individual, will lead you to having an overall I don't know, picture an overall idea of just the scope and the nature of this reality fabrication that's going on all around us. And needs must then, ultimately, you get to flat Earth. When you get to flat Earth, then you're into a whole different realm. Just, I guess, in one sense, and just a different door within the mansion, you know. And it's a whole different realm that's opening up for you. So let me stop sharing, and that's all I wanted to say about that. So I'll just go briefly back into chat, and as I look, Mum, it's just changed now, but it was 11 thumbs up and 9 thumbs down. So that's and now as I look at the date as well, it's 11/06, but you can just invert that and it's 9/11. So 9/11's everywhere. So if anyone wants a link, let me know. And I'll just say hello to a few other people in the chat maybe, and I hope everything's going smoothly. I trust in any the wrench holders that they'll understand my position, you know. So just wrenches just for minimum use, absolute minimum use if you can help it, and it's only when it's just blatant, pure insults or pure diversion, I guess. So yeah, thanks. So let me talk about it just in general about Dell's hangout yesterday. He was talking to Matt Boylan for ages, and Matt Boylan's an actor. I mean, this is clear, should be clear to us at this stage, but it was like a soap opera, afternoon soap opera is what I was listening to. So, you know, this is par for the course. And again, all of this, it's all interesting that his name is associated with Mark Sargent's name is associated with the council meeting IPS went into, and now you have Matt Powerland back in the news again, also associated with IPS. So something's going on. They're all interconnected, I think. And look, I don't think IPS did that without getting in touch with Matt Powerland first, you know. So this is all more mini drama, is the way I look upon it. But having said that, Dell had 2 excellent callers yesterday. 2, you know, really made the whole show worth listening to, because not that it wasn't worth listening to, but they were really excellent, passionate callers, and full of good ideas, and full of this, I don't know what you call it. That's just this passion of waking up and finding out that you've been fucking lied to by everybody, especially people who've taken oaths to serve you and serve your best interests, you know. And I suppose we all need to do that. We all need to realize the extents to which we've been lied to, and shake ourselves and do something, I suppose. What do we do? This is always the question. What do? We have to do something. I mentioned it before about playing a good game. Even if we can't play a good game, if we can't talk a good game, we certainly have to think a good game, you know, because that's where everything begins anyway. And once you can think a good game, then maybe you can move on to talking a good game, and then you can move on to playing a good game and putting those thoughts and those words into action. And I'm speaking to myself as well, and I'm sure we can all relate. We have to let fear go, though. This is the thing. It's about truth or not truth or untruth. So the choice is ours. You hear many people, and Dell was asked the question himself, you know, how do you deal with your children? And obviously they're going to school, but we're aware as guardians to our children, natural guardians, I'm talking about fuck legal, that our children deserve nothing less than truth, no matter what its forms. So it is a poser, you know, and you definitely find a lot of comments where parents haven't even mentioned it to their children, and I think that's not. We have to change that. We are the authority here. You know, we can't cower away and let our children, even though it's not suffering as such, it is mental abuse. It is corruption of innocence, because at some level these are known lies. So the people who are just the middlemen, that's no excuse either. You know, but again, the ultimate onus is on ourselves, especially parents to children, younger children. We are the primary carer, primary nurturer, primary educator, and that onus lies upon us. And nothing is more deserving than truth and honesty for all our children. You know. So it is a poser. It will go against the system. It will kick against the pricks. But again, it's only the biggest thing ever, isn't it? It really is. So, Andre the Giant, how you doing? Pure Matrix. Not too bad, man. Thanks for coming in. Multi-Tom. How you doing, buddy? P. Mars. P. Mars is here. Or he was here. P. Mars is another ball earther who was a flat earther, and he reverted. Again, for me, almost an impossibility. But yeah, whether he's genuine or not, I haven't called him an actor yet. I think he's just maybe confused. I think he knows the ball earth doesn't hold any water, but yeah, other than that, not good. I think it's time to start making calls as well. I think the pressure is on us now to start taking sides, and we're sort of being drawn left, right, and center. I think I'm not. I'm just saying I'm not, but in general, left, right, and center. So you're forced to sort of make affiliations, and then you're sort of looking around to see if there's any friction between this affiliation or any interaction between this group of affiliates and this group of affiliates, because you know there's problems between this and that. So again, you don't know what to think. You're sort of I don't know. It's like walking into a party or something, and you know that the couple at the punch bowl are just notorious for arguing, or just after the last time you saw them, or just after a massive breakup in public or something. You know, you're sort of walking on eggshells, and you're not relaxed, and you're not sort of enjoying the atmosphere. So I think it's something like that, and there are strings of connection. Everyone is connected. There's a web which connects every one of them. You know, even Patricia and Antonio, who you'd imagine there can't be any connections. If this was all real, there can't be any connections. This is why I say to Martin, your position is untenable. I mean, you have to disassociate yourself from one of them, I should think. You can't just continue on as if nothing happened between the two of them, because one has laid such serious charges against the feet of the other, really. So one is a psychopath, the other is a psychopath. Both are psychopaths, or else both are acting a part. So these are all options. But if you're an honest traveler on these roads, you certainly would have to make that call in real life. You couldn't allow that situation to continue. You'd have to disassociate yourself from one aspect. But again, it's a different game afoot. I did say when the Oroville dam, and there was all that drama about that, I was wondering what's going on with this sort of excessive drama. Why is there so much focus on this? So again, taking it symbolically, it was a turning point of sorts. So the floodgates are opened, and we're seeing that now. We're seeing all the drama unfold. And remember, if there are actors in place in the first place, a sort of a script or a narrative has been played out. So if confusion enters into the field, Well, then you have to say it's all designed that way. This is how it's actually going to go if actors are placed in the field in the first place to lead or mislead for whatever reasons, for whatever motivations. Um, this is what we have to discern ourselves: who is doing the leading, who's doing the misleading, who's doing the steering, who's doing the missteering within this mystery. You know, um, so not to pick on anybody, but yeah, these are all questions that become front and center. We don't want to be misled again. This is the point. I should think we just don't want to be misled again. So we have to be we have to be alert. We really do. We have to be standoffish from personalities or from following cliques or from identifying with any particular aspect. The big thing I got from the billboard making it to the relatively mainstream headlines was infinite plane. This is the thing that was made to jump out at me, and I think this is the purpose of it as well. Math Powerland talks about an infinite plane, or talks about much more land beyond the Antarctic ice ring, or whatever, beyond the confines. Mark Sargent talks about the same. He reintroduced us to Admiral Byrd. Nice connection there, potentially to the Dodo Admiral Byrd. But he introduced us to Admiral Byrd, who also talked about more land south. And IPS, yeah, again, into infinite plane. Who else? Many others sort of focusing on Adam Dwyer as well. Yeah, going off into the beyonds. Exploring the great unknown. Whereas when you think about it, that's fine, but where would you go? Every direction is south. If you're living in a circular or elliptical or oval type setting, every direction was going to be south. So there's a million and one different points you could potentially aim at and just keep going straight. But that's sort of aimless and hopeless, isn't that? So none of these people mention the North Center. They don't talk about it. It's just as if it doesn't exist, even though there's so many writings, and there are efforts of many people at this stage in terms of presenting their findings regarding the research into the North Pole Center. So the very fact that they don't mention it at all, or brush over it really quickly, that's a clue in itself. So that's the way I look upon it. I just while I'm at it, let me go on to, I just brought up a few Wikipedia pages, so let me go on to one of them. It's about Admiral Byrd. Now, I pointed this out before. I pointed it out before. So I hope you can see my screen now. I can just check back. Yeah, okay, that's cool. There's a bit of a delay there, but I pointed it out before. It's all about the names as well. This guy is an actor. Doesn't he have the look of an actor? He doesn't look straight away. But leaving that aside for the minute, yeah, Richard E. Byrd, Dickie Byrd. Now, what does Dickie Byrd mean? Well, if you haven't heard Dickie Byrd from someone, you haven't heard a word from them. So word, Dickie Byrd, word. In the beginning was the word up. So just the numbers themselves, we can take it, these are fabricated. That's just the way we go along anyway. October 25th, 1888. So October is 8 itself, oct, just you go along with that 8, and then you have 2 plus 5 plus 1 is 8, so you have 888. And I mentioned this about the death date, March 11th to just 311, that's your 33 hoax code. Then you have 1957, you add all those up, you get 22, and then taking the 3 from the March 22, you have 322, which is skull and bones. But yeah, let me just read a little bit. I only wanted to focus on one section, so You can be sure he's well connected. Yeah, he was born into a well-to-do family, um, all associated with the kings and landowners. You know, going back into time itself. But yeah, so he's completely fabricated for the role. It's a completely fabricated role. It's just a narrative more than anything else. Now, that's not to say that there weren't real expeditions, but they're not going to tell us, are they? But I mean, the interesting part, why I wanted to bring him up, was the controversy surrounding his efforts to make it to the North. So just read that, because I don't think you can get to the North Pole. I think you can get so far, and then you encounter a barrier, and you're not getting beyond that barrier unless, you know, unless whatever, unless something, unless you know something. So yeah, so let me just read this. On May 9th, 1926, Byrd and Navy Chief Aviation Pilot Floyd Bennett attempted a flight over the North Pole in a Fokker F Villa 3M tri-motor monoplane named Josephine Ford, after the daughter of Ford Motor Company president Edsel Ford, who helped finance the expedition. The flight went from Spitsbergen and back to its takeoff airfield, lasting 15 hours and 57 minutes, including 13 minutes of circling the pole. So what did he say? 15 hours and 57 minutes. Nothing too significant there, is there? I was just thinking if you add the 13, oh, that's including, yeah, okay. Anyway, Byrd and Bennett claimed to have reached the pole a distance of 1,535 miles. It's a pretty big claim, isn't it? I mean, no one had done this before. So when we read further, it will start to unravel. But again, we get the hero of this controversy. So this is woven into the narrative. This isn't a discovery that the honest Wikipedia or the honest investigators feel a sort of an ethical onus, moral onus to let us know about, you know. So anyway, when he returned to the United States from the Arctic, Byrd became a national hero. So this is where his name was set up on the basis of his flight to the North Pole and back. Congress passed a special act on December 21st, 1926, promoting him to the rank of commander and awarding him both and Floyd Bennett the Medal of Honor. Bennett was promoted to the warrant officer rank of machinist. That doesn't sound too high, does it? A machinist? Huh? Okay. Well, you were the first man to make it to the North Pole and back in this wonder of modern technology, the aeroplane. So just to reward you, we're going to put you on the Lade, okay? So you'll be doing 3 overnight shifts and 2 morning shifts. So lovely. So well done on that. So Byrd and Bennett were presented with Tiffany Cross versions of the Medals of Honor on March the 5th, 1927 at the White House by President Calvin Coolidge. So you have CC. Okay, the widespread acclaim from the flight enabled Byrd to secure funding for the subsequent attempt to fly over the South Pole. So here's the controversy now, which is what I wanted to get to. Again, we're through the controversy because they wanted us to hear it. If he was a plant and his story was a narrative, then they didn't write in the controversy into it. Or else, of course, there could have been real research later on, and these anomalies popped up, so they were forced to deal with the consequences and readapt their story, or at least acknowledge it anyway. So anyway, since 1926, there have been doubts raised, defenses made, and heated controversy over whether or not Byrd actually reached the North Pole. In 1958, Norwegian-American aviator and explorer Brent Balkan cast doubts on Byrd's claim on the basis of his knowledge of the airplane's speed. Balcon claimed that Bennett had confessed to him months after the flight that he and Byrd had not reached the pole. Bennett died on April 25, 1928, during a flight to rescue downed aviators in Greenland. However, Bennett had started a memoir, giving numerous interviews, and wrote an article for an aviation magazine about the flight before his death that all confirmed Byrd's version of the flight. The 1996 release of Byrd's diary of the May 9, 1926 revealed erased but still legible sextant sites that sharply differ with Byrd's later June 22nd typewritten official report to the National Geographic Society. Byrd took a sextant reading of the sun at 7:07 at 10 GCT. His erased diary record shows the apparent observed solar altitude to have been 19 degrees, 25 minutes and 30 seconds, whilst his later official transcript reports the same 7:07:10 apparent solar altitude to have been 18 degrees, 18 minutes and 18 seconds. So just a quick comment: 18, 18, 18, 36, 36, 36, 666, 666, 666. Again, these are just indicators to those in the know that you're dealing with a hoax. That's the way I look upon these numbers now. And but yeah, that's just something to note. On the basis of this and other data in the diary, Dennis Rawlins concluded that Byrd falsified his report to support his claim of reaching the pole. Others disagree with Rawlins. In 1998, Colonel William Mollett, an experienced navigator, published Due North. Mollett maintained that Rawlins had put too much significance in erased navigational calculations, which can be explained by any number of other reasons, including favorable wind speeds as well as simple human error due to stress and lack of sleep. None of the Mollett's hypotheses explain how Byrd could have observed two completely different sextant altitudes in the same second of time. Well, he couldn't have, could he? So that the conflicting data in the type of flight times indeed require both northward and southward ground speeds greater than the flight's 85 mile per hour airspeed. A Byrd defender posits a westerly moving anticyclone. That tailwind boosted Byrd's ground speed on both outward and inward legs, allowing the distance claimed to be covered in the time claimed. The theory is based on rejecting handwritten sextant data in favor of typewritten alleged dead reckoning data. This suggestion has been challenged by Dennis Rawlins, who adds that the sextant data in the long unavailable original official typewritten report are all expressed to one degree, a precision not possible on Navy sextants of 1926, and not the precision of the sextant data in Byrd's diary for 1925 or the 1926 flight, which was normal, half or quarter a minute of arc. If Byrd and Bennett did not reach the North Pole, then the first flight over the pole occurred a few days later on May 12, 1926, with the flight of the airship Norge that flew from Spitsbergen again to Alaska non-stop with its crew of Roald Amundsen, Umberto Nobile, Oscar Wisting, and others. Amundsen and Wisting had both been members of the first expedition to reach the South Pole in 1911. So isn't that interesting? Right from the get-go, we're dealing with fakery, we're dealing with fabrication, so it appears anyway. Now, fly over the North Pole. It's a no-go area, militarily speaking, but I also think it's an impossibility to fly over it. It's just a fenced-off, protected area. And how much land is contained within that enclosed area, it's hard to know. It could be pretty substantial, how would we know? But, yeah, it would be interesting to find out. Again, I think this narrative as well, different clues are presented to you as to what might really have been happening. It would be interesting to find out how far he actually traveled, and then based on the time traveled and the speed of the plane, to work out maybe how far north he got as opposed to how far north it was. in theory anyway, to the North Center itself. Then we could work out, potentially anyway, the radius of the barrier, and an enclosed space there that I don't think we can easily see or get into. But yeah, then you have the rest, of course. I don't even want to go into that, because from the get-go, you're dealing with potential fabrication here, so we have to look upon everything that's presented to us from this character as being potentially dodgy anyway. Of course, he comes on television after the war and talks about all of this land, that's greater than the size of America, and waiting to be taken advantage of. Now, why does he do that? I mean, this is just after wartime. Everything is supposed to be still up in a heap. Lots of stuff would be top secret. But he comes on national television and says this stuff. Well, smell a rat. What do you reckon? Or is that knob cheese? That's something anyway. Yeah, so what are we going to do with that? Again, Mark Sargent is the first guy to, on a bigger scale anyway, reintroduce. I think he featured in his very first clue. So there's a clue in itself. And again, in fact, it's Admiral Byrd. Yeah. I'm going to make some sort of connection there anyway. But so interesting. That's all I wanted to mention about that. Anyone can just go into his Wikipedia entry and go through the rest of it. I think I went through some of it anyway. And lots of anomalies are showing up. Lots of sort of bridges are being done. Again, there's no bridges there, So, and his death is very strange. His tombstone, like the Tombstone Blues. Tombstone Blues. We have the Tombstone Blues. Admiral Byrd, Tombstone. Look at how basic and almost pauperish, really. No, I was not saying that, but just for the basic fact of like the fame associated with the man, making it to the cover of Time magazine. And as we look into it then, look at how basically fundamental this is. And all that's on it is the cross within a circle, and then you have the inverted pentagram. Now what these things really mean as well, I think it's all encoded. But this is it. Look at how fundamental and basic this is. It's just the dates and birth dates. This doesn't seem right, does it, for a national hero? So, different stories have been told here. We got to read between the lines. But yeah, I went into a bit more detail about this actually, didn't I? Well, yeah, I'm not going to rack my brains and have to think about what I wrote about that, but this is what I wanted to bring up as well, because the same year as Byrd's birth, 1888, and again, with fabricated history, there's no. What solid ground can we stand on when we go back? I don't know anymore. I can stand solid ground in terms of my own life, to grandparents, but 1888, yeah, or definitely further back than that is more and more problematic as the further you do go back. But this is called the Flammarion engraving, and this was by I think it was an anonymous find. So this just pops up, and I'm sure many flat earthers would have come across it before. You might have recognized the name. It's the Flammarion, Marion, the flame of Mary, I guess. The divine feminine, the flame of the divine feminine. So very interesting, very interesting. I'm thinking, yeah, plenty of things being said here. You know, it's all about decoding it. The sun itself is just rising, so sunrise in the east. We can say towards us is the west, so you know we can see that maybe the guy here is peeking out through the north. Biblical connotations here with Ezekiel's wheels and Enoch's visions and all that sort of stuff. Without an enclosed barrier, you know. It is very interesting, isn't it? See connection here in terms of the rays coming off the sun with the moon. I think they're telling us something here, and the same with the stars. But the reason I brought it up is the big elephant in the room, which you can see everything else pretty together in terms of perspective, what you'd expect to see when you're looking over vast distances or whatever. But suddenly then there's this big fucking fuck off tree. Look at the size of that baby. So what is this in reference to? I mean, what's the reason for putting this in there? It's another question, isn't it? But you can be sure there is absolute significance in that. And again, this is anonymous, so we can't look up the motivations or the history of the producer of the work. But yeah, you can see the anomaly here. You miss it at first glance, but it's only when you look at it that you go, I look by comparison. You see church steeples here, mountains in the distance. You know it's not in the near ground because we have these flowers here, different sense of perspective. But here's this fuck off tree, like, you know. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. That'd be worth mentioning. All of these things are, the truth is known. I've said this before, the truth is absolutely known. And there's many different clues left in many different spots for the investigator to happen upon or to come across. The trees definitely play for me now, the trees play a massive role, even a bigger role than what I thought. And, you know, taking this at its word that it was produced in 1888, obviously it had a significance to someone else anyway, whoever that may have been. I think that I would take this sort of piece as the same sort of like undertaking as the Georgia Guidestone. I think it was R.C. Christian who was credited with, but who is that? That could be anybody, you know, who's credited with financing and overseeing the project. But this could be another one of those things, you know. Right. That's called a Flammarion engraving. Anyone interested? And again, it's encoded. What I'm seeing here anyway is intricate connection between the sun, the stars, and the moon. And again, a central tree, a giant tree, playing a pivotal role in everything. We are certainly enclosed, so who knows what's beyond? Who knows what's beyond? I guess that awaits us. That wonder awaits us. Okay. So it's, what time is it? 11:08, and as I look in the sky, still see patches of daylight, literally. Looking over to the west, you can just to a break in the clouds, you can see a blue, fading blue, but blue sky. Now, in, what is it, about 4 hours, a little over 4 hours, maybe 4.5 hours, the sun will be back and it'll be hitting dawn again. So we'll have, and this is only entering into the summer, so we'll have 19 hours of sunshine, 19 hours of daylight pretty much, dawn to dusk. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing, and it, that's just another way to prove that the ball has no legs. The ball has no underpants. The ball is busted in a million ways to Sunday. Yeah, okay, that's the Flammarion. That's all I wanted to show about that. Definitely worthy of further investigation. A little sort of mystery story associated with that as well. But I just wanted to point out the giant tree as well and how in your face it is. You couldn't miss that, really, could you? Yeah, it certainly is a mystery realm we're in, and day by day now, surprises are coming to the fore, and I think we have entered a new stage in this unraveling. That's the way I look upon it now. This greater mass awareness, mass awakening. I think we should see things hotting up nicely in the next few months, especially as it becomes more and more mainstream. But we have to be careful, yeah, in terms of which sides we choose or where we give our allegiances. We shouldn't have any allegiances, really. Have allegiance to yourself and your whatever your own circumstance, your loved ones, your family, your friends, fellow man, I suppose, and truth. But beyond that, yeah, we have to know the arena we're in. Perhaps investigator at every hurdle. How else are you going to hone your investigative skills? I guess your personal skills in terms of truth from your reality. Yeah, it's only by being challenged that these things can come about. So that's the way I look upon it now. It's a challenge, and it's a bigger puzzle. Mark Sergeant Prepper is the big clue. Sergeant Pepper's, leads you to the solution of Sergeant Pepper's, leads you again back to, I think, another encoded song talking about a flat Earth. So it's all about the flat Earth. Once that's the people realize the extent of that lie, then then everything changes. Like everything is you know, if you find out your girlfriend is capable of telling a big lie, then you know a littler lie, you know, or less big lie. So yeah, then the whole thing happens, and yeah, plenty of clues have been put there for, and I think everyone may be working up towards it. And this is where I think 420 is in then as well. And maybe next year was always the year. How would we deal with, psychologically, how do we deal with a whole different history, whole different reality presented to us? Yeah, it would be difficult. We'd have to be prepared in some sense, wouldn't we? As man, anyway, limits of our own consciousness and our awareness. But we definitely have to be prepared. And one thing we can say about flat Earth realization is that it has expanded consciousness. It has expanded your horizons, you know. You think you know so much when you're so young, you know, and so as you progress, you find out that the more you know, the less you know. When you get to flat Earth, then everything changes again, you know, because you really know nothing at all. But that's the challenge, maybe. That's the road to take. You have to know nothing before you can know something. So that's sort of, this is all being laid out before us according to a grander plan, anyway. What role the individual has in that grander plan. I don't think it's a great role. I think it's like the outcome is set already. So you know, the end will be the same for all of us. I think it's the end of the world as we know it. Again, of course, if the world is a fabrication in the first place and a non-reality, then we won't miss that. This is not something to be writing about or feared of. You know, the end of a fabrication. This is where Shiva comes into it as well. Destroyer of illusions. This is what we're living under. It's an illusion. Everything is an illusion. Everything. So, in order for the new to appear, the old has to be destroyed. And tired of the old because it's full of untruths. Yeah, it's full of lies. It's full of fabrication, deceptions. So, how do I stop screen share? All right. Yeah. So that's the Flammarion engraving. So plenty of clues there. Anyone's interested, just go to Wikipedia. So let me go back to the chat. I guess it's kind of difficult when you're on your own. It's always good to have some advanced ideas off of, and then you end up like in a place that you didn't think you'd be at the start of the conversation. But let me just get rid of a few of these things. We'll go back to chat if there's anyone still lingering. Shit. Any questions, or anyone wants to have a chat? I'll gladly give you the link. I can post it in chat here. Doesn't matter. Okay. This is a busy night as well. Sunday, isn't it? So still no sign of knob cheese. I've been looking for them everywhere. I left a comment going, in years to come, the question will be, where were you when knob cheese was born? And I can say that I was right there at ground zero, and it was quite something to behold. When Antonio Knob Cheese Subarats was first christened, and his dick was handed to him on a plate. So, that's 1 degree of separation almost. I was there. It was funny though. And the one thing I was saying to Del, I mean, he are saying in the chat anyway, he has been approaching the different media outlets and the BBC in Scotland or whatever, but you could see them using different clips from that, how would you say, outburst or tete-a-tete against him, or against the flat earth movement. So we definitely have to be careful of that, but absolutely there's nothing wrong with showing passion. And Antonio, even though he had a point last night, I mean, if you do say something against somebody and you were mistaken, then you have to issue a genuine apology. I think that's we can all understand that's exactly what would be called for. So a flimsy, half-hearted apology wouldn't sort of cut the mustard. So you can understand Antonio's point as well. But well, anyone who knows me, I've had my run-ins with Antonio before, and I already called him out. I understand that he's acting a part. So yeah, he exposed himself for me when we had our argument, and it went on for a pretty substantial amount of time as well. And I'm not going to say he behaved more like Del, but he did at the time. I was more calm because, again, I have nothing to... I'm just asking questions. If we can't ask questions of people who have supporters and who have a name within the flat earth, especially when questions are merited, then, well, what can we do? Who's going to tell us what we can do and what we can't do? So, yeah. Well, I mean, if you can't deal with those questions responsibly, well, then, what the fuck? Get the fuck. That's a great insult. Get the fuck ball bag. Get the fuck ball bag. Knob cheese. I've never been called a lot of things, but I've never been called knob cheese. So, yeah. It's funny, man. Just the thoughts of it alone pretty much sums up my feelings towards Antonio as well, in a sense. But it was certainly something to behold, and it will be used against Elle, But look, we're in this sort of passionate environment. We all say and do things we regret. But in the heat of the moment, this is where the passion comes out. God knows what Americans and the likes think of that. I mean, in Ireland here, we pretty close to Scotland, England and Wales. We sort of have a grasp somewhat on each other's characters. So we know about the fiery Scotsmen. But God knows what Americans made of that or the likes, because it was a pretty full-on outburst. Get the fuck ball back. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. See what you have then. There's another division there. Del has a big following. Antonio as well. IPS has a big following. Matt Boylan has a big following. So there's going to be sort of people torn and caught. Who should I follow now? Should I go onto this chat? Should I show support here? Is there someone watching? Taking notes like Vincent P. Yeah, Vincent P. Don't be watching and taking notes of different chats, Vincent. That's not what this is about here, man. Everyone is free to say. We should all be responsible for what we say ourselves anyway. But we don't need Big Brother looking over our shoulder at everything we're saying, only to be taken out of maybe perhaps context and used against you at some point in time, you know, when things might turn sour in a certain relationship. Yeah, so we don't need that. No leaders unflatter, no wrenches unflatter. For me, it gives this false sort of sense of authority. Authority to who? Authority over who or over what? You know, I couldn't imagine. You know, we live in controversial times, so controversial topics easily should be broached. And I know there's a time and place in some situations, but fuck it, the chat flows, like, you know what I mean? If the conversation is respectful, anything can be broached within reason. Obviously, we won't go down the who's that guy? John Doe. You remember him, Del? And how you doing, Joe? Do you remember John Doe in was it Feds or Flat Earth debates or something? But every conversation at the soonest possible opportunity, and it's a valid conversation in itself, right? But because there's many different points that could be held on the matter. But every earliest opportunity, he'd bring it back to the age of consent, you know. And you know, then you're opening up a whole potentially murky area for discussion there, you know, because you'll have various views, and some of them are bound to be controversial because there is no wrong or right answer, you know. But these are all ploys, tactics, adversary sort of guidelines in how to disrupt conversation, in how to throw a spanner into the works of a flowing, meaningful, open discussion. You know, throwing these points of controversy. This is why Lord Stephen Christ took on the name Lord, you know, to stir and introduce controversy into it all. No bigger controversy stir than, you know, anything to do with religion. And this is where he comes into it for me. His model is excellent, and it's too polished, though, you know, and it is a perversion of an inversion. I think that's his role, you know. Again, all of these different tactics to divide and conquer, and we shouldn't fall for it, you know. We shouldn't fall for it. Or at least we should be aware and stand back anyway before we get too emotionally involved in any of this. I think the truth will come out eventually, or will come to us eventually. You know, all roads will sort of combine to lead you towards a greater truth. And even though different people are at different places, yeah, I think we all will get to the same place. We've all arrived at the flat Earth together, even though we have 1,000,001 different views of the grander picture. You know, we basically all alighted on the same flat shore, flat water structure, you know. So let me just say, I'm the very one as well who expressed the need, even the onus on us to call out people who are again actors. I'm going to use the term actors. People who are playing a role, because if there is deception at a core level, at a sort of a basic level, then that's going to carry through. You know, there is a script being acted out, and yeah, if it is designed to mislead in the first place, then it is going to mislead, unless you throw a spanner in the works, and I'm not going to say expose, but definitely make it known that certain individuals are potentially anyway. And it's a difficult call to make, isn't it? It really is a difficult call. Like with Chris Flat Earth, Chris F.E. Jackson. It wasn't a difficult call for me because I wasn't appealing to anyone else, just me and him. So I was just telling him, you know, that I know the game. If I was appealing to someone else, I would have to go about convincing them and filling them in on the different the history involved and the different evidence is gathered and all this sort of stuff. But there is no such target for me. But I do think it's important to call it out. Anyone after that then is free to do what they want, or free to think what they want about that. If they choose to delve further, that information is there. If they don't, that's fine as well. You know, this is just the point of view of one man, one person, and no one has to take that as gospel. But I do think, yeah, we're in a pressing time now, and I guess we have to sort of make our choices. We have to choose wisely, I should think, as well. Again, we got to this point before Flat Earth. We got to this point by following leaders, if you will, by being conformists, by going with the flow, by go along, get along, you know. So now that we have cast aside those shackles, well, that leaves us sort of free but bare, doesn't it? I mean, we don't want to be like Byrden's ass where Byrden's ass was placed in the center, and equidistant from him at four corners were placed 4 bales of hay, and the ass starved to death for want of which direction to take, you know, for want of which bale to choose. So, yeah, again, the pressing questions are pressing question time is almost here, I think, you know. So I definitely expect it's insane enough as it is to me, but I definitely expect a lot more insanity to flood the market, if you will, because it's all insane and it has to be sort of broken down, you know. And this is the way I look upon it. We have to be made aware. We have to be shown. We have to see the cracks. We have to see the foundational problems with the whole structure and system and society that we're in, you know, before we can sort of outgrow it and move on. So, yeah. Delved on the Dodo, Mom, has he? What does doing the Dodo mean? Did you do doo-doo? A dodo. Again, Dodo is another, again, they attach the they attach shit to it. The dodo, you're a dodo, you're an idiot, you're a fool. A dodo, the child goes doo-doo, you know, you go shit on the ground. Look at the dog's doo-doo. You know, so when we're looking for truth, then we'll probably go the opposite, and then maybe the dodo is very valuable after all. I was really grateful for that one, Mom. The doob, and Del, I forgot to mention that last night, and I think Realtor was in the chat. Casper, how you doing, man? I think Realtor was in the chat, so he gave me that one, the doob, and of course I should have known that, the doobie. I was in a sort of makeshift band with a friend of mine, a couple of friends maybe, and we were called the Lonesome Dubon. So Dubon is sort of an Irish take on the word doobie, so the Lonesome Doob Smokers, if you will. And yeah, doob, 420 connection there, and Dodo, yeah, just the last 2 letters inverted or mirrored. So all those little connections, they could all be just pure happenstance, of course. I tend not to think so at this stage. Yeah, that's one thing I haven't seen too many of in recent days anyway, Del, even though it hasn't been great here, but chemtrails, definitely feeling that they've lightened off a small bit over the years. And they're almost at a minimum there for a while. Of course, they're always around, but it definitely changed my view on those. Most especially, just look, all you want at this stage is just someone from officialdom to recognize the practice, but they don't. I did ring up the Irish Met Board, the meteorological centre, and I was looking to talk to for the Irish people, Evelyn Cusack. She's kind of an awkward, sort of goofy looking woman, you know. I was looking to talk to her and got through to someone in the office or whatever. And I got talking about chemtrails, and I just asked him, you know about chemtrails? Yeah, I know about chemtrails. So that's an immediate admission, but they can't talk about it. You just get silence then, you know. I'll pass on the message. Of course, you give your little spiel. I'll pass on the message, and we'll get back to you. Or write in an email or something like that. So again, you're getting the bum's rush at every hand's turn. So they all have to be in it, you know. There has to be this. What do you call that? What do you call that? It's slow tonight. It's on the tip of my tongue. Gag order. That's it. Gag order. So there has to be a gag order on a system-wide scale put on these things, and you're just even mentioning it. You know, it doesn't matter who you ring, you get no satisfaction whatsoever. Then you're left with the only place to go is, you know, on the internet, and then you have all of these scareaholics, you know, and you know, why wouldn't you immerse yourself in this? Again, it's the same with conspiracy research. You don't know which other way to go, then you meet all of this confounding information. So you're going to go along with it because it's so. It's coming from a completely different place where you were at, so you don't know anything better than just to go with it. But of course, then after a while, you change your view on the practice. And what it's for now, well, it will be strengthening the ether, making the air more conductive. I do think we're in sort of regenerative mode. So I do picture maybe potentially anyway a sort of construction in a different form of the pillars that used to hold up the sky, you know, before this catastrophe or before this destruction and inundation. So that's the way I'm thinking these days. Well, also, I noticed that the sun is increased in frequency. Now, again, one of the big fundamental questions, well, what exactly is the sun? I think it connects big time to the trees, you know. So if it has increased in frequency, is it according to some plan? Is it according to some overall design that's laid out for us? Yeah, there's another question to add to the list. But I will say the plants seem to be doing well. I'm not getting as much sunshine here at the minute, but vegetative life is definitely blooming from what I see. So yeah, change my mind about that. You go through the state, you know, the pure, it's almost a historical stage, and you know, to understand, it's so frustrating when you're trying to point out to people that look up at the sky, just look at it, and acknowledge that this is a reality, acknowledge that this is going on, because if you don't at least acknowledge that, then you can't hope to do anything about it or think anything upon it. And that, again, that's the biggest problem. People are just apathetic and they recognize it all right, but they don't think too much about it. And again, it's the big lie. The lie is big enough. People will fall for it all the easier, you know. And it's, I guess, in the uninquiring mind, for these things to be true, the conspiracy would have to be so large that it's beyond the realms or the scope of their ability to entertain it, you know, and then it's just easier to leave it behind. But yeah, of course, the conspiracy is so large, but I don't think it's built up from something. It's like we've fallen from a certain position, you know. So we're not coming from like Stone Age man to modern man via steps of progressive evolution. No, we've fallen in a big sense, and we're much more retarded now than I think we have been at certainly points in the near past as well. not just the distant past. So, yeah. Mum says, why, Pete, why throw NASA under the bus? Well, I think they've been doing that from day one, Mum. Think about the movie Capricorn 5. You know, think about, again, I just went briefly on to Clues Forum and showed the transparent astronaut. Why they didn't need to show us those pictures. I mean, they could have easily doctored that, or of course it's fabricated in the first place, but they could easily have done a much better job. So again, is there just a long running script being played out? Was there timeline set? And you know, everything is just playing out according to that timeline. This is where I think the 420 might come in, you know. Party time. So it's part and parcel of our sort of gradual awakening. Needs must that NASA gets involved. They were there to present this fabricated package to us in convincing terms, and they, of course they have been convincing over the years. Well, outside of the likes of Bill Kaysing, who was on the Apollo fake moon mission conspiracy early doors, you don't get to hear a lot of what researchers thought about it, you know, until recent times, especially. So again, the gag orders were everywhere. The core lies were protected, but clues were always left out there for the discerning investigator, you know. And yeah, this time is planned for is all I can think of. The time is now. And this is why they've made it so easy, Mom. Imagine people coming into flat Earth research now and questioning for the first time moon landings or the ISS reality or satellites or anything like that. There's so much information there, so much damning information at the the touch of a button almost. That it's incredibly easy to be able to see through the con. And this is something that wasn't there in such abundance anyway, going back into the past. But yeah, again, the time is now, I'm thinking. And the great unveiling is taking place. Yeah. What else? What else? When you saw Interstellar talking about the fake moon landings, well, then you know something has been rolled out. Then you know that NASA has been demolished in a controlled sense. So that's what I've said before as well. Anyone in the flat Earth arena who's just sort of solely focusing on busting NASA, they're suspicious in my eyes, because NASA are already been thrown under the bus. So they're just facilitating something that has already been planned anyway. So, and you'd find, just like everything else, people are limited in what they can say. You know, when you take on an acting part, I think you accept the confines of the role you play, and you can't sort of go beyond the fences set for yourself or set for you. That's up to someone else. And when I come across your stall, I'll wander around, or your little shop, I'll wander around, pick up what I need, you know. Once I realize that, well, you don't have what I got in this aspect, I'm going to move on, and you'll wait. And this is why all the ballers are persistently doing this. You know, you'll wait for the next person to come along into your shop, and you go through the same procedure again. But meanwhile, you're not going to extend. You're not going to make any extensions to your little abode there, you know, because this is the stall that has been given to you to set out. So this is the way I see it again in terms of the individual. It's all about the individual's journey. This is all you can say. This is the be all and end all for me anyway. So these people will keep selling their wares. Again, we're coming to the end, I think, anyway. I'm thinking a lot of people are glad of it as well. But yeah, these people, until the time is through, these people keep selling their wares, and it's sort of like a conduit as well. It's sort of a pathway for the investigator to follow. And you got, again, you got diversions, you got traffic blocks, you got traffic jams, you got all manner of different interruptions, if you will. But yeah, with enough perseverance, enough passion, I suppose, you'll make your way through, and eventually you'll find calm waters, beyond, where everyone will meet. That's the way I look upon it. Everyone will meet. All the truth is out there in one form or fashion or another, and it's just waiting for us to sort of to piece it together. It's a big jigsaw, and it's a big jigsaw, and you're not in it. Yeah, but we all like jigsaws, don't we? I mean, most of us like jigsaws as children, even young adults and adults. We have just a sort of desire to complete a picture, a jumbled up series of pieces, which there's a solution to, there's a correct order, but you're not quite in possession of that order, so you have to go through the methodical process of, yeah, solving that. And yeah, this is what we're in a big way: flat Earth, flat Earth, and what lies beyond. And again, I think flat Earth is just the beginning. It really is. It doesn't tell us much. It doesn't change much when you rest on flat Earth. And if you just rested there alone and not allowed your brain to delve any further, well, where are you at then? That's even probably worse than being on a ball, I think. Because you're sort of stuck here in the middle of nowhere. So again, just human nature, and needs must we always move on to the next question, and the next question always gets bigger. It's an ever increasing gradient. The next question is always the bigger question, but I do think there's an ultimate end, and I do think we're again coming to a time where all questions might be answered, and maybe all roads terminated. I'm definitely close enough to the end of the road, because, I mean, well, what is there when everywhere you look is just deception, there's fabrication, there's untruth. What is there? Where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? Into your dreams. Like, dreams are good. I like my dreams. I say, tend to your dreams, appreciate your dreams. But yeah, where do you go from here? There has to be an end to it. They can't be, as Arlen van Visch has talked about, a never-ending Groundhog Day, but no actual progress being made. And I made that the comparison to Jamie. Imagine it was like that. You're one of the monkeys who was typing away endlessly on a keyboard, trying to get the complete works of Shakespeare. So you're doing you're doing this for a limited infinity, and suddenly you get it. You get it. You just complete. You type out the complete works, and then the very next day you start off from the very beginning again. You go back to square one. Now that's fucking hell, isn't it? Fucking hell. Get the fuck. Get the fuck. Ball bag. They have fucking the Scottish have some. I'd hate to be on the receiving end. I don't know. I really wouldn't know what to do with that. They have some passion, don't they, and some skill at offending or fighting. Antonio was quick to put out a video as well, though, as I thought he would be, which is fair enough. You know, man's got to defend himself. But yeah, he just has this way about him, doesn't he? So even though Dell might have been technically in the wrong there, Antonio has this way about him. And, you know, especially in a heated situation like that, when you do things like take it easy, breathe, now you relax, don't be getting your heart, you know, this is only going to add fuel to the fire of somebody who's a little cheesed off at being, you know, in the situation in the first place. So then it hit the fan. It hit the fan. It was great. I was still laughing thinking about it. I mean, that's the best insult ever, knob cheese, and that's the best name ever. That's who he is now from now on. Antonio Knob Cheese Superants. So I'm looking for knob cheese, and again, just put out the call. Anyone sees Antonio's Knob Cheese Superants around? Can you tell him from me that I said he stinks? So that's my that's my thoughts there. I'll definitely have to organize a little bit better. Maybe have a specific presentation in mind. I'm always thinking about just doing a little bit here, a little bit there, but I definitely have stuff to expand upon. So I should get into trying to actually make a video and just put up a few slides as well. That's a great combination. A little bit of talking, a few slides to put across the idea. So oh, Anita Paloma. Ooh, Patricia said Tony had some of the maturest knob cheese ever. I think you'll find that you missed out a K there on the knob cheese. Yeah. Get vegan knob cheese now. Yeah. I mean, Vegan Warrior have vegan knob cheese. You know. I'm gonna I'm gonna put on this clip if I can find it. Let me have a look. This is funny if you haven't seen it. Just the cheese reminds me of it. I should put on a few more videos as well, actually. Oreo cheese. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna put this on. Let me speed it up actually. So I think if I speed it up a little bit, let me put it on the 240. If I speed it up a little bit, then there's no copyright problems. But this is not for any profit or anything. So I'm going to put it on, and I'm just going to go to the toilet. I'm not going to stay on too long. Anyway, so talking about cheese. Talking about cheese, that reminds me of this. So that's Borat in a supermarket. Borat's from Kazakhstan, this pit hole of nowhere, and he's in a supermarket for the first time. So he's just been shown around by a supermarket attendant. So I'll just play this, and I'll be back in a sec.
This one here, please. What the bottom is? Cheese. What is this thing here? That's cheese. What is this? Potato? Cheese. Is this a milk? That's cheese. And what is this? That's cheese. And what is this? That's cheese. And what is this? Very good. And what is this? That's also cheese. And this? Cheese. And this? Cheese. But it's safe. Crackers. Crackers are like very many. And what is this? Cheese. And what is this? Cheese. This is a butter? That's cheese. This is herb? That's cheese. And what is this? Also cheese. It is not a pen? Cheese. And what is this? That's cheese. And what is this? That's cheese. What is a this? Is this a paper? And what is a this? That's cheese. And what is a this? And what is a this? This is a paper? Cheese. This is must be real. Cheese. This? Cheese also. This is also cheese. Why do American people only eat the cheese? The whole story. What is this? Butter. And what is this? All this butter. Butter and water. And this one? That's butter also. And what is this? That's butter also. Butter starch. And what is this? All this butter all the way over. And what is this one? That's butter. And what is that? That's butter also. And what is this? That's butter. And what is this? That's butter. And this? Butter also. And what is this? That's butter. And what is this? Butter. And what is this? That's butter. And what is this? Butter also. And what is this? What is this? Milk.
What is this?
I have several different puppies here. I
Yes.
don't know if you have anything particular that you're looking for.
I want this dog.
Okay. He is about 10 to 11 weeks old. And he's probably going to be about a medium-sized dog. One piece of
Good. Is it trained? Can I see if I can train her? You stand there, please. Put your fingers on the hair. Yes, the other finger too. You say shalom. Attack. Attack the Jew.
probably not to sniff out a Jew.
Why not?
Jews are Jesus' children. She probably loves Jews. Are you religious?
Yes, I am a cousin. I worship the mighty hope.
Oh, Byrd?
Yes.
Oh, that's an idol. You shouldn't do that.
And how do you recommend to put this?
No, you don't do it.
Not now. But after my travel, after you have protect.
After I have a bath.
How do you?
I'll tell you what.
What is it?
If that's what you want to do,
No, not now. Do not tell me what to do.
I want sexy
you
time.
kill or eat
No, I know. No, I don't. Woman, you told me this was my dog.
Oh God. I hope there's no problem showing that. What is this? Hang on. What is this? What is this? I hope that did that come true okay. Of course, there's a different story to Borat as well. Sacha Baron Cohen, who's a Jew himself, but he's he's all about from Kazakhstan, and you know, again, it was a popular movie worldwide, so most people wouldn't have heard of Kazakhstan in the first place, but any view they would have had would have been molded and fashioned by that movie, where you're given the impression that it's in the arsehole of nowhere and it's antiquated and pretty much a shithole, you know, on every front and every level. Whereas when you look up Astana, or the actual reality regarding Kazakhstan, a completely different picture, the complete opposite actually. A picture unfolds before you, you know. So yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen himself is a big Jew, a big Jew, a little Jew, whatever. So when you can control the opposition, you can. When you can lead it, when you can control it, you can lead it. So yeah, but it's still funny. I mean, there's some classic Borat, some classic moments. But all connects to the greater picture of propaganda, supporting a greater narrative, which we're living out and we're living through at the minute. So. Pretty stormy night here in the west of Ireland. I don't have too much more to say, really. Might sing a song before I go. A little soft number. And I have to catch up. I haven't really caught up on what's been going on recently, so I'm sure there's a lot of hangouts. And again, which is drama, is sort of, you're looking out for drama on an hourly basis at this stage, because there's so much to talk about, so much controversy in the air, and so much to make your way through. There's still some excellent videos are coming out, left, right, and center. Some excellent content. There really is, you know, on all manner. And I'm definitely glad to see that there's a lot more talk about the North Centre as well. People are getting together in hangouts and presenting lots of good information taken from myth and legend and that sort of stuff, and sort of trying to apply it to come out with some sort of coherent picture of what might really be going on, you know, which is the greatest puzzle of all. So let me sing this anyway, and I might call it a night then. It's called The Love Song of Wandering Angus. And it's just a nice little slow song, which I enjoy singing as well, so it's nice and soft. Well, I went down to the Hazelwood because a fire was in my head. I cut and peeled the hazel one and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and moth-like stars were flickering out, I threw the berry in the stream and hooked a little silver trout. Now I had laid it on the floor. I went to blow the fire aflame when something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossoms in her hair. She called me by my name and ran and vanished in the brightening air. Okay, friends. Thanks for that, and thanks for tuning in. Yeah, a bit tired here, so I'll talk to you the next time. And yeah, happy days. Take it easy.